Sherman Fairchild originally made cameras for aerial photography, and I guess he had difficulty finding the exact kind of airplane he needed, so he designed and built his own airplane for that work. When they built these airplanes, they were all hand-built one at a time. There was no production. So if you would order one of these, you might say, well, I want that door on the other side. So it would be a little different. Well, I want longer ailerons. They would custom build every airplane pretty well. So when you go to build something, you can't really copy too many other airplanes because they're probably different. First thing we had to have is wing spars, which is here. There's two spars. They're not just a solid piece of wood. They are actually two pieces, 2 by 2 roughly, top and bottom, and then a double laminate of plywood over top of that to make it's actually a box. It's all the way down. And once we build the spars, then of course we set them up and we build a jig. We also at the same time somebody's building ribs. And there's about 30-some ribs altogether. Once we get all the ribs, then it's a matter of installing the ribs. And again, we had drawings for some of these ribs. Some, for example, this one here, we didn't have. So we have to, it's a diagonal, so that was a little bit of engineering to get the correct contour for that. But it's, that's all complete now. We had to build these flaps. And this airplane had a unique feature which was actually quite common in the 1930s, where they didn't have a lot of big hangars for storage. A lot of the airplanes were made with folded wings. And of course this wing hinged right here, and it would fold right back against the fuselage. But to do that, of course this is too wide back here, you flip this piece up out of the way. That would enable you to fold it right back against the fuselage, and you could probably get it, if you had a long garage, it would fit. And again, as I say, that was pretty common in the days. You've got a handle here and a latch, so that what you do is you, when this wing is installed, this pin goes through here and holds the wing in place. And then what you do, you want to fold the wings, you fold this up here, the pin pulls out, you can fold the wing back. Now to ensure that somebody didn't accidentally decide, you know, when they're flying, what's that handle for? There was a padlock on it. The wings are ready for fabric. We're not going to do it until we get the fuselage woodwork done, so we can do it all at the same time. And we have, fortunately, a lot of the original woodwork that we photographed and labeled all before it was dismantled. So we've got all these pieces here, and you can see some of them are not too bad a shape, but most of them are pretty well rotted. Here's a good example here. That's a piece of door frame, and it's not that good a shape, but we can use this. Now we know the shape, the cross section, and the length of those pieces, and we can make new ones to match that. Today they use a synthetic fabric. In these days, the fabric was all put on. You had probably two sections here, and it went for the ceiling, the roof, and they were all stitched by hand. That whole length of the airplane or the wing, that was all hand stitched. The newer fabric today says synthetic, and it's usually just glued on. They don't use stitching like that anymore. And so it's hard to find people that can do the stitching or that want to do it. It's a really tedious job to go, as I say, from here, the full length of that, 1/8 of an inch separate little stitches, baseball stitches. We have one guy that worked with Estelle. She was our fabric person, and she did all the fabric, and other people would work with her. So we've got one guy that did work with her, and he's going to be in charge of doing the fabric when it comes down to that point. Okay. Today nobody knows that craft anymore. It's just there's nobody around it. Anybody that does fabric work, the only fabric work done today is basically on home-built aircraft. And the number of people that do that is very, very limited. So when we get around to doing the fabric, we're going to have to sit down and read the manuals. I've done fabric, lots of fabric, but that was 50 years ago. And, you know, memory kind of gets a little bit contaminated after all that time. So when we get around to that, we'll sit down, the bunch of us, and go over how we're going to do it. And that's a few months down the road. At the moment, we're trying to get as much done on the wings and get the woodwork done first, then we'll think about fabric.